Cloud. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. This is the Pain Changer Masterclass, and I'm so excited to show you guys what I've been working on. My name is Katie Wrigley, and I'm a pain management coach, and I'm also a level 2 Cognomovement practitioner. Let's see. So the agenda for tonight, who this class is for, and then as I had mentioned previously, Jody and Jason, why we need pain management, our pain journey. And this is what most people have gone through. It's not mutually exclusive. It doesn't mean that you may not have a different journey, but this does seem to be the one that most of us take when we wind up in a chronic condition or some sort of chronic state. Then we get into the good stuff, the areas that we can start to positively impact today to help us take control of our pain. And then we're going to talk a little bit about why patience is so important with pain management. Even if you're rolling your eyes with me right now, I get it. It's like the last thing I wanted to hear the first time I was told that, but it's also so critical to being able to shift our perception and our experience of pain. Then we're going to talk about Cognomovement, what it is, how it can impact pain. I have my ball here. We're also going to do a demo so you guys can experience part of that yourself. And then we're going to discuss the beta program that I'm launching. And the reason I call it a beta program, I've actually been using this methodology for a while. I have a long-term pain client who has a very serious condition, and he has had great success over the past few months since we've been starting to work together. I call it a beta because I've never packaged it in this way. And so it gives me a little bit of wiggle room, and also in a few different ways to be able to really play with it and make it awesome and be what you guys need it to be. So before we dive in, I want you to think of this and answer this for yourself. What is one thing that you absolutely love to do, but you've stopped doing it because of your pain or because of whatever chronic condition is going on? Just take a moment and think of that. Write it down if you have a journal. Just take a note. What's something that you stopped doing that you used to love? For me, it was yoga. I stopped doing it because my back hurt so bad I couldn't stand it. Now I'm back in yoga multiple times a week when my schedule allows. I can't get enough of it, but I had to give it up for a long time. Just give you guys a moment there to think about this. And please feel free to ask questions. You can put them in the chat. I'll try to remember to just check it every few slides, or just do those reactions again. You may see a raise hand when you look at the little reactions menu. There's a raise hand. You just do that, and then you can lower it again. But just let me know if you have any questions, please. We're also going to be taking a break at some point because, full transparency, which is the way I roll, I'm on a juice fast right now, which means I'm not going to make it 2 hours before I have to pee again. So sorry if that's TMI, but my bladder's not going to last that long with all the liquid I'm drinking right now. So that means it also reminded me that it's a good idea to get up and stretch our legs every hour. So we're going to have that built in tonight, thanks to my juice fast. So a little bit about me. I have been there and done that. I did everything I could think of to run from my pain. I experienced a very severe trauma in my early childhood. And then I spent the next 40 some odd years trying to deny that it had ever happened to me. So this looked like drugs, binge drinking, a lot of fun with a lot of men that probably shouldn't have been having that much fun with them, high risk activities. I was a skydiver. I'm not saying that skydiving is a way to hurt ourselves, but for me, my reasons for skydiving were not healthy. I used to drive a super fast car. I took chances with it. And all of that resulted in 6 bulging discs, a herniated disc. My L5 facet joint is gone. They're not sure if I fractured it or not. It's just not there anymore. And through the course of life and just other things, I have a healed fracture on my T10. I've knocked more than 2 inches, or I had knocked more than 2 inches off my height. I've actually regained 3/4 of an inch now. I've been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, complex regional pain syndrome. That was after I had a knee replacement. Yeah, I had a knee replacement in my early 40s. And I was also diagnosed with something called centralized sensitization, which is a psychological state when your body has been in pain for so long that you become hyper reactive to it all the time. And so even though it is a psychological condition, and we're going to talk a little bit about where pain comes from, it had physical manifestations. Like if someone were to grab my arm when that was going on with me, it would leave a bruise. And I mean, like a light touch. They weren't hurting me. It was just a light touch. My body was just so incredibly oversensitive because I had been in pain for so long that you literally couldn't touch me anymore. It was miserable. And then, surprise, surprise, that led to disability in 2018. And busting away from traditional medicine is how I started to rebuild my life coming out of there. This actually led to some other discoveries. I was able to actually cancel a neuro consult for my lower back. So those bulging discs and all that stuff going on down there, even though I had made really big strides between 2018 and 2020 to get back a lot of my life, my left leg was still losing strength because I had such bad nerve damage down that leg that I couldn't even do like a seated push-up without my leg shaking like this with muscle fatigue. It was that bad. And so they said I was going to need surgery. I'd tried everything else. And then someone said, you should try Cognomovement. So I have now been told 4 separate times by 4 doctors that I'm going to need 3 different surgeries to be able to resolve my pain. I have had 0 surgeries. And I went snowshoeing this morning. I played with my dog in the snow yesterday. I organized my bathroom on Saturday. I've been standing up making juice for 2 hours a day. I used to not even be able to cook myself a healthy dinner. I hurt so bad. And now you can't stop me. I've tried a plethora of healing modalities in addition to Cognomovement. And then I became certified in Cognomovement as well. So that's just a little bit about me and kind of the nutshell of how I got here. So who is this class for? It is for anybody who is experiencing any kind of chronic condition. And when I talk about pain, I'm not talking about just physical pain. I'm also talking about emotional. If you are struggling with any form of PTSD, or you have an anxiety disorder, or you have depression, I include that as part of chronic pain because it is painful to have to deal with those. I've been diagnosed with all of those as well, but I don't feel them day in and day out anymore because I've been able to do what I'm going to teach you in this class today to help myself have better days, better weeks, better months, better life. If you are endlessly going to medical professionals and you're getting little or no improvement and you are just feel like money is just going out the door trying to help, you're in the right place. If you have a sense of hopelessness that this is the idea, this idea that life is as good as it gets, you're in the right place. And by the way, it can get better than where you are now. If you've lost the ability to participate in the activities you love, if you are constantly exhausted, because being in pain is exhausting, it is. And it actually does literally change your brain. There are physical changes to our brain after we have been in pain for a long time. We are constantly exhausted as we are trying to overcome that. If you're staring down long-term or permanent disability, if you have a lot of fear of anxiety around the possibility of surgery, or you're afraid of needing to rely on painkillers or get a pain pump, depending on how severe your condition is, you're in the right place. And also, if you are sitting there doubting what I'm saying and you are feeling resistance, awesome. I went into my first Cognomovement session, total doubting Thomas, thought they were full of it, and it still worked for me. So hang on to your resistance. I'm not going to ask you to get rid of it. I'm actually going to tell you to keep holding on to it. And last, if your new normal is living with pain, you're in the right place. Anybody have any questions so far? Probably not. We're just going over the who it's for. Just checking. Okay. Let me check in the chat up here. All right. So pain management, why do we need this? So some of these beliefs as we go through this, some of them I'm going to bust, some of them I'm going to expand on, and some I may kind of modify and give a different perspective. This first one, I'm going to expand. And the belief is that we need medication and doctors to feel better. In some cases, we do need medication. And the doctor is very important for the diagnosis. But you don't have to agree with their prognosis. And sometimes their diagnosis is wrong too. They have the medical degrees, absolutely. Now, the other thing there is that traditional medicine, at least in the US, it is focused only on the physical body. we actually need to include the mind and the soul or the spirit, however you want to refer to it. I have it both ways up there on purpose. We have to include all three of those to really be able to affect change at a deep level. And that's what people who have a chronic condition need. But the thing is, because we're taught, oh, we need medicine, we need doctors, we are taught to look outside of our body. And especially in the United States, Jody, I don't know how much you get it in Canada, but we got all these big pharma commercials here. And you'll have the smiling person who's enjoying life.
There are no commercials, just for the record. They're illegal here. When I moved, I lived in the States for a few years, and that was the first shocking change when I got there. And I was like, wait, you're allowed to do this? There's no pharmaceutical advertising allowed on TV here.
I love that. Oh my gosh. See that? We may not want to tell too many people that would have me move into Canada, because those ads just kill me. Because you've got like, it gives the impression that you take this pill and you're going to have this magic life. And meanwhile, they're listing all these side effects that you don't want, like anal leakage and death. But hey, look at all these happy people that got by these side effects and they have a perfect life now. And we just keep getting taught to look outside of ourselves. We are not taught to go in, non-traditional medicine anyway, and start to enhance our body's own natural healing abilities. And so what do I mean by that? So if we think about when we break a leg, we go to the doctor, we get a cast. 6 weeks later, the cast comes off, bone is healed. Did you heal yourself, or did the doctor heal you? Anyone want to take a guess? All right, so you healed yourself. As soon as your bones broke, they knew what to do to start to heal themselves. Your doctor set you up for success, much to the point, doctors are good. They are not inherently evil. But your bones knew what to do. Your body knew what to do to heal itself. It just needed to be set up for success to be able to use that leg the same way you did before you broke it. But you are the one that healed yourself. There's also an emotion that was related to every experience of physical pain. And no matter how much I want to deny that, I have not been able to find a way around that yet. The other thing that makes chronic pain more complex to deal with, we can never unlearn a pain level. So ironically, as we're coming out of pain, one of the last things that we tend to notice is our actual physical pain level. Our energy will increase. We're able to do more. Our moods feel better. We're more optimistic. We're starting to laugh and enjoy life again. And then we realize that our body doesn't hurt too. It's because our brain holds on to that pain, because pain is there for a reason. And we may not like it, and it may be giving us messages we don't understand and we don't want it in our lives anymore, but it's trying to tell us something. It's there to try to protect us. And so it won't unlearn the level until it feels it's safe. And it also becomes part of who we are, and we don't even realize it. And in my own experience, after my first Cognomovement session, I felt relief and then panic immediately after the relief, because I didn't know who I was without back pain. And it made no sense to me whatsoever. Why was I panicking when I had finally been released from the pain that had been hurting me so bad, that was bringing me to a neurosurgeon? I wasn't feeling it anymore. Why was I freaking out? And it's because I was used to it. I didn't know what to do without it. And so I had to really think about, okay, where are all the things affecting me? And part of it was, for some reason, I had told myself I was going to be a better pain management coach if I had surgery. No, surgery or not surgery, that's got nothing to do with what I'm doing here. Everybody needs to make the right decisions for themselves. What I've been able to do is avoid surgeries, which is a better answer for me personally, because my body freaks out when I'm in surgery. So it's best for me to be able to do it non-surgically. And there are other options out there. But when pain gets wrapped into who we are, it's important that we know who we want to be when that pain is gone. And if we don't have any idea who that is, we're already imposing a limit on ourselves to be able to break out of that pain. Does that make sense? You can put something in the chat. Okay, I'm just going to keep going. All right. So the pain journey for most of us. Now, this one rules the pre-pain state, and there's three main portions of this journey. The first one is pre-pain, and the ruling belief is this won't happen to me. I have time to change how I'm doing things. Who else other than me thought you could do that? Because I totally thought I was going to have plenty of time to get my butt in order, and I was wrong. And it happens over and over again. So a really good friend of mine, someone who's really close to me, this just recently happened to her. So she used to get blood work every fall because her work does a health fair. And so as her reminder, oh, I need to go get blood work done again. Well, with the pandemic and everything shutting down, they stopped doing the health fair. So she did not have her reminder to go to the doctor to get her blood work done. Between the end of 2019 and the beginning of 2022, she's become diabetic. All of her blood work was crystal clear back at the end of 2019. In under 3 years, she became a full type 2 diabetic. So now it's happened to her. And now she has to figure out how to live around this condition that's going to be difficult and a massive change for her to be able to do. So when we're able to start to do this more proactively and get some of these healthier things going for ourselves, we can sometimes even avoid the rest of the pain journey, just veer off and continue to have a high quality of life. The other things that happen in this state while this belief is running around, we stifle our emotions. We try to numb. Like I said, I was the queen. I did everything and anything I could think of to try and run and hide from what was happening in my body. I used to be an addict. I haven't had a drink since 2018. I haven't done drugs since 2017. That used to be how I dealt with everything. I haven't touched them. We also have little to no self-care, and our physical state is pretty much ignored until we can't bear it anymore. Now, in the during pain, this is actually where things can start to get good, but it doesn't feel like it at first. The major belief in this part of the pain journey is that this is going to be as good as it gets, and it sucks. It really sucks. We get a crappy diagnosis. We're told that it's chronic or it's permanent or there's no cure or some other sort of really defeating, depressing kind of description from your doctor. You start to try therapies they recommend. Maybe you start to get into holistic or alternative treatments. You may have varying results. Like massage used to help me for 2 hours. Now it helps me for weeks. And chiropractic, I haven't been adjusted in months because I haven't needed it. Used to have to go 3 times a week. They help a little bit, but they weren't impacting things deeply enough. But this is where we start to really play with those things and see what we need. Our emotions and our mental state start to really feel the impact of struggling under this condition, whatever it's going on. Our doctors and our pharmacists start to know us by name. When I lived in Atlanta, I was there for 11 years. My pharmacist would actually wave at me from down across the CVS every time I went in because I was on that many medications. And this was before I was disabled too. I mean, geez, the amount, I don't even know how many I was on when I was disabled. Filled up my whole medicine cabinet though. But this is also where the best stuff happens. This is where we start to find what works for us because we've had enough and we start to think outside the box and start to break out of what's been happening with us. And that leads us to the post-pain part of the journey. And the belief there, I'm limited what I can do because of my chronic pain. Now, this one has layers in my experience so far. I'm going to tell you guys a story about that in a moment. But in post-pain, you've already found a balance that works for you. So if self-care had been neglected before, or it felt like something you couldn't maintain due to your state, now it's a regular practice. You figured out what you can do, what's within your limits. Like my client that I've been working with for a few months now with his condition, he's actually made this a regular thing for himself now of figuring out what he can actually do. So he's very limited in how much exercise he can do. And with his condition, he does have a risk of permanently hurting himself worse. So he's very, very careful. So instead of aiming for 20 minutes or 10 minutes of exercise, he tried 5 one day. That was too much. Instead of giving up, now he's going to try 2. And then we'll see how that works for him. But it's figuring out how can I care for myself in whatever way possible for me right now. He's totally transformed his life. He has this accountability calendar now that he and his partner use regularly to keep track of everything. She puts her stuff on there, he puts his stuff on there. His mindset is so much better. It's amazing to watch what's happened as he's starting to pull himself out of pain. And the last piece to change for him is the physical component, but yet he's doing 10 times as much as he did when we first started working together. Our bodies start to become stronger, our mental state becomes stronger, our emotions feel more stable. We start to feel hopeful and confident again. And this is also where we can become unstoppable. Does anybody have any questions on the pain journey so far? All right, let me just check the chat. We are good. All right. So how do we get on that pain journey and on our way out? So this is the way that I like to look at life. There's a million different ways we can slice and dice this, like depending on who you're listening to. Some people talk about 7 pillars or 5 staples or whatever it may be. This is what I kept going back to, and I still go back to for myself as well. So the story I was going to tell you on the last one, I'm definitely in the post-pain part of the journey. And one of the things that's very typical as you're coming out of pain is you overdo it. And I was a classic example of that. So last Monday, I did 40-pound kettlebell deadlifts at the gym. Haven't done 40 pounds of anything in a really long time. It's only been the last few months that I got back into a gym again, because I kept telling myself I couldn't handle the gym. It was wrong. I could totally handle the gym. I just want to pace myself. But I overrode what I knew to be right for me, went back to what I used to do 10 years ago, 5 years ago. And yeah, made my back pretty sore. But that wasn't it. I also went to bar class on Wednesday because I'm like, I don't want to lose the credit and it doesn't hurt that bad. I did bar class, felt good in bar class, could feel my back a little bit. But as soon as I stopped, my whole back seized up and I gave myself the worst pain day I've had in a year and a half. And the reason why is because the signals from my body that I was looking for that told me that I was doing too much, they changed. And of course they changed because my body's changed. So the signal is different. So now looking back, I'm like, oh, okay, that's what my back's telling me now when it's too much. Got it. And so as I've gotten more active again the last few days, I'm really watching for that. And when I feel it, I stop. So last Wednesday was when I had that bad back day. It used to take me 6 weeks in a steroid pack to get pain under control before Cognomovement, before I really started to dive into this methodology here. I was fine again later that day. I did a Cognomovement session, and then I followed my own advice here as well. So we're going to dive into that. And since that bad back day, I've organized my bathroom. I've made juice multiple times. I've gone snowshoeing a couple of times. I've played with my dog. I've shoveled my driveway 4 times. We had 18 inches of snow. That's not easy. There's no way to shovel without your back being involved. I know you guys know this if you've ever had to shovel. And Jody with you in Canada and Jason with you in Pennsylvania, Terry, you in Maine. I know you know what I'm talking about. There's no way to do it without your back in there. And I've been fine. And I'm going to go to yoga tomorrow because I feel so good, because now I know what those signals are. But I had to check back in again and readjust my own expectations for myself. But I'm really excited that 5 days later, I'm sitting here telling you about it when it happened. Oh my gosh. And here's the other thing. When pain spikes, it wreaks havoc on our minds. It tries to tell us all kinds of things that aren't true. And they're all scary, or at least that's the way my mind works. Raise your hand and give me a thumbs up if your mind likes to play tricks on you too with pain spikes and starts to tell you it's never going to get better. And this is as good as it gets. And it's horrible. And how are you going to survive? And all of those things. Does anybody else get those awful messages from their brain? Yeah, Jason does. Yeah. And it's talking yourself off the ledge can be really hard. And this is part of where this comes in. So as we're diving into this chart here, there's going to be overlap. That's why it's listed this way. There's bleed over into different areas. So first, let's look at the emotional. Now on the emotional side here, oops, let me just change this. There we go. Okay. So in the emotional piece, this is going to be the moods, meaning like, I'm not saying you need to be even keeled and have one mood a day, but how easily are your moods influenced? Does the wind blow and you're in a bad mood, or are you pretty more closer to even keeled? How much stress is in your life and how are you able to cope with that right now? Is it working for you or is it working against you? Are you making it like a power stress or is it too much? What's going on with the physical body and how much stress is that giving you? What kind of support system do you have? Do you have good friends, family, maybe a professional, a therapist of some sort? What kind of support do you have in your life to help you with this? Do you have people? Are you in a support group where you have access to other people who have a similar condition as yours? What kind of support do you have in your life there? Okay, thanks so much, Jody. She jumped off for now. All of these things start to matter in the emotional piece. So I want you guys to take a moment here and rate yourself. Where would you say you feel you are on overall like emotional, I don't want to say stability because that sounds like such a negative term, but on your emotional strength, I guess. So 10 would be like, I am an emotional badass. I never react to anything. My moods don't change that often. And 1 is like, huh, what? There's things I can control here. So anywhere in between, just give you guys a moment and rate where you are in a scale 1 to 10 right now. Okay, moving on to verbal. So this one is pretty big. It's not just the words we speak and hear, it's the overall tone as well. So when we're talking about words we speak, how often are you saying should? Are you shoulding all over yourself? Or are you giving yourself some grace? How often are you telling yourself, or does your brain say, I hurt, I'm in pain? Because I used to tell myself that all the time. I didn't even realize it until someone said, hey, you don't actually have to keep telling me you're in pain. I can see it by looking at you. Everything about you tells me that you're in pain. I didn't even realize I was saying it. But every time we say, oh, I hurt, or I'm in pain, or my pain, it reinforces that it's there and it keeps us in our bodies instead of outside in the world where we want to be. And then the words we hear, like, how often when you go to the doctor, are they asking for your pain scale? Well, guess what? You're checking back in with your pain, you're bringing it up again, and that's going to make it more present and it's going to start to feel bigger and bigger and worse over time. Are people working with you? Like this kind of goes on to the emotional side too. Are there people who are enabling you to stay in pain? Are they encouraging you to come out of pain? Are they encouraging you to get out of your comfort zone and to try something? Like, what words are they using? Are they supportive or are they keeping you where you are? Are they stifling? Those really matter as well. And the overall tone. I'm going to pick on the news here for a moment. So I haven't watched the news regularly since I was disabled. I literally could not handle it when my pain was high enough that I wasn't even working. Or I mean, I was technically working, but not really. I just could not deal with the drama. And you can watch them, like they can make like a ladybug taking flight be like the biggest deal ever because that's their job. It's to pull you in, it's to make it dramatic. And that's what they do. And so like, if you go back and you look at the start of this pandemic, we had people who were watching the news all the time. And we had people that said, okay, I can't watch this anymore because this is too much. Like even going back 9/11, 2001, I remember them even saying like, if you've been watching the news all day, please get up and walk away. This isn't good for you. I didn't hear that at all during the pandemic. But what I noticed immediately is the people who are locked into the news and everything that Dr. Fauci and Trump at the time and all the things that we're saying, they were totally freaked out about this virus. And a lot of people still are, because that's also what we've been told is our truth, to listen to the news. And they do have a lot of relevant information. The other side of the house didn't really pay too much attention to the news. They knew there was something going on. They took caution. They're still careful. They're still going to be affected by the virus the same way, but the fear factor wasn't the same level. And we can even do a little example right now. Like, let's say a parent's talking to their kid, like, did you do your homework yet? Kind of stern, the kid's gonna, versus like, hey, how was your homework today? Including the benefit of the doubt. There's no sternness. It's open, it's encompassing. Hey, have you done your homework yet today? Or how is your homework today? Versus, you better have done your homework. It's completely different, even if we're saying the same thing. And our cells are going to react to this. And there's so much science around everything I'm introducing you guys to tonight. I'm not going to go into all the science, but all of this is stuff that we've actually been able to prove exists with science. There's all sorts of experiments about cells being able to hear us. Like if you talk to your plants, if you've ever done an experiment with plants, that's evidence that talking to something actually makes a difference. And humans, even more so. We're way more complex than plants. So that affects us even more. And when we are in a sensitive state because we're in pain, it matters even more than it does to the average bear, because we are already in a heightened sensitivity state. So every little thing can feel so much worse or so much better. Again, rate yourself where you think you are in a scale 1 to 10 with verbal and the words that you're using. Like 1 would be you're shitting all over yourself and you're constantly feeling like you're in pain and probably telling yourself every few minutes you're in pain. Whereas 10 is you feel like you really have a grasp solid on the words that you're using and the tone that you use them with. Give you a quick moment to jot that down. Then see if anybody has any questions on that so far. Okay, not seeing anything, so I will keep going. All right, on the mental piece, even just starting, do you think you're weak or do you think you're strong? Whatever you think, I'm going to agree with you, because if you think that you're in a weak mental state, that's how you're going to be. If you think that you are strong mentally, that's how you're going to be. So part of the complexity of the human brain, we love stories, we love patterns. And so when we have a belief, we're going to find evidence that backs up that belief over and over again. This is one of the reasons that Cognomovement is so effective. Get into that a little bit more later. But we are going to find evidence that backs up whatever it is that we want to tell ourselves. Again, what kind of support do you have in your life? Do you have enablers, or do you have people who are truly supportive of you and helping you move forward? Are they there to help you emotionally? Are they there to be your mental guideposts? Are they there to help you be talked off the ledge if you have a really bad pain spike? Like what kind of support is in there to help that? Do you do any meditation? What kind of self-care are you doing? Do you do any yoga? That also kind of goes into the physical, but has a fantastic mental benefit as well. What are you doing to build up your mental resiliency, if anything? How are you doing that? What kind of things can you do to improve your mental resiliency? And then rate yourself again. Where do you think you are on the mental side? Do you feel like you're strong? Do you feel like you're weak? Overall support. And it could be an upward trend. How is your self-care routine? How are you caring for yourselves too? And can factor all that in and then rate yourself on a scale 1 to 10. And then the last piece here, and then we're going to kind of look at what it looks like when we get some of these pieces together, but not all of them. So the physical one, this could seriously probably be its own 6-month class, just deep diving into everything in the physical sense. It's not just the physical body. It's also our physical environment we live in. It's the stuff that we put on our body. It's how much we're moving our body. It's what we're feeding our body. Like I hear this expression a lot is like, you can't expect to get to the moon without rocket fuel. So what kind of rocket fuel are you giving yourself? Like if you want to have a pain-free state, you can't be putting inflammatory foods into your body, or that's going to work against you. I mean, you can still do it, but it's not going to help your pain state lighten up at all. And again, it's so easy to go get fast food. It's so easy to go get the quick hit, but it tends to also be pretty unhealthy for us too. And that can have an impact. Like the difference I've had in this juice fast. So it's been really challenging, and I'm on day 21 today. I've got 9 more days. It's 30 day. It was a doozy of a commitment. Within 10 days, I realized that I had a dull ache in my body. It's not there anymore. I have no idea what I was eating that was causing it, but trust me, as I reintroduce food again, I'm going to be watching to see what's causing that, because now I know it was there. Ironically, my left knee, which has got some arthritis in it, started hurting worse, or felt like it hurt worse. It wasn't actually hurting worse. It was that the rest of my body felt so much better that the arthritis that's been bothering my knee felt like it was worse. But that was totally just perception. That's it. There is nothing worse with my knee. So I've been doing what they call PRP injections, which is platelet rich protein. And it's basically, they take your blood, your platelets, and they inject it back into you. So it's your body healing itself. And so what those platelets do is it actually smooths out the roughness under my patella and allows it to move freely again. I had the shot less than 2 weeks ago, and my knee is already 10 times better than it was. It hardly even bothers me at all anymore. Between the fast and the injection, my body healing my body, it's so up my alley. I feel amazing, and nothing is really stopping me anymore. But all of these things, especially when our body is in a more fragile state, they matter a lot more. Like, there were 6 months when I was disabled, all I could listen to and watch was comedy. Couldn't do the news. I couldn't even do an action flick because I'd tense up like this and then make my neck hurt, and then my arm would go numb, and then my back would go numb. And it was a mess. Like, I just wasn't even enjoying action flicks anymore. All I could do was watch stuff that was funny. That was it. All of this has a massive effect on us on levels that we aren't even aware a lot of times. So where do you guys feel you are? 1 to 10. And 10 is like your diet is on point. You're moving all the time. You're using natural products. You're in a very caring environment. You have people around you, or you live by yourself with pets. Pets are definitely part of mental and emotional support for sure. So 10 is you feel like a boss in that piece. And 1 would be, okay, I'm eating really bad. I'm never moving. I'm using everything artificial, and everybody in my house doesn't like me. And that environment, when that was part of how I wound up disabled too, is a lot of the decisions I had made, which the stress of those is what made all the skydiving injuries make me crumble. And if it had just been a matter of the injuries, I would have never been disabled, and it would have happened when I was skydiving. But the combination of a lot of these things, my diet was crap. I was under massive amounts of stress, going through a really awful divorce. All this was going on, and the other people that were in my house at the time, they just didn't care about me. And so I was not conducive to healing. And guess what? I didn't heal. Not until I made a lot of changes in my life. Any questions on these so far? Okay, gonna keep moving along. All right, so let's start to look at this when we start to get some of these pieces together. So when we start to get the emotional and verbal going, we're still leaving mental resiliency and our physical state on the table. Same thing if we get emotional and physical. Now we're leaving the self-talk on the table and the mental resiliency. Flipping to the other side of the circle, if we get the verbal and the mental going, then we have our emotions are still going to be ruling a life. We're still leaving the emotional side on the table, and we still have a weak physical state. And then looking mental and physical together, we've got the weak self-talk, and emotions are still ruling our lives. So we're getting there, but we're not quite there yet. And then as we start to get a little bit more going, let's just pull in another level here. So let's say we get the emotional, the physical, and the mental going, but we don't have the verbal. We're going to feel like we're on a hamster wheel, because we're continuing to say stuff to ourselves that's bringing ourselves down. It's like, why do I feel I should feel better? You shouldn't. I should feel better. You're going to keep feeling like you're on a hamster wheel. Now, if we have the emotional, the verbal, the mental, but we don't have the physical, we're going to feel like we're constantly going uphill, because our muscles they're meant to be used. They are meant to be strong, and they are meant to continue to help us move through life. Like they say, a body in motion stays in motion. A body at rest stays at rest. So if we aren't trying to strengthen our body however we can, if it's 2 minutes of PT a day and that's all you can handle, great, do it. Do whatever you can. Any little bit that you do is going to help. And then let's see if we get the verbal, the mental, the physical together, but we don't have the emotional, we're going to feel like we're on a teeter-totter because our moods are going to take us down every time. Every time our mood drops, we're going to be taken down. Alternatively, every time our mood lifts, we're going to be lifted up. Have you ever noticed what happens to your pain state when you're feeling joy? So we want to get off that teeter-totter. We want to have something that's more even keeled instead of, I feel good. Oh, I feel bad. I feel good. I feel bad. And then last, if emotions are the ones, or I'm sorry, if the mental piece is the one that we leave on the table, we've got the verbal going, we're not shooting anymore. We've got the emotional going, we've got the physical going, but the mental isn't there. We're going to be exhausted all the time because we're not doing anything to help restore those mental resources that we're using all the time. Any questions on this? So what happens then when we get all of these together? That's when the good stuff happens. That's when we become unstoppable. So how exactly do we do this? Patience is the first rule. And the reason I put this in here, it's really key. We all want things to happen immediately. All of us, or maybe that's just me, but when we have already been in a state of pain, we want to do anything we can to get out of it as fast as possible. I get it. I still have moments of impatience here. You want to be patient for a few reasons. One, if you just looked at that chart and your takeaway was, oh my gosh, I've got so much I need to do in my life, I want to applaud you because that means you've got so many places that you can affect your life positively that you may not have thought of before. And we do a much deeper dive in those with the program we're going to be talking about here in a little bit. But you don't want to dive in and change everything all at once. That's not going to be sustainable. So having the patience to be able to take the time, identify your heaviest patterns, be able to delete them, create new patterns, much easier than it sounds, I promise. Having the patience to be able to baby step into that instead of consuming everything at once is going to be the difference between you making sustainable and permanent changes, which are going to positively influence your pain state, and feeling like you're going 2 steps forward, 1 step back all the time because you wind up feeling overwhelmed because you change too much. It's not sustainable. You go back to what you're doing and then you hurt more again. And so the more patience you can have from the beginning, the better. And it's going to continue to help you grow, evolve, and be able to shift what you need to shift to be able to get yourself out of that pain state. So Cognomovement, this is one of the places, and this is why I say that shifting those patterns is not going to be as hard as you think it is. I actually did a demo with someone earlier today, and they went from a heavy ball in their chest to it feeling fluffy. And we only did the same demo that we're actually going to do here in a few moments. So this ball here, it stimulates both hemispheres of the brain. And this is important because our body has the ability to heal, as we'd already talked about with the broken leg example that we touched on earlier. When we start to stimulate both hemispheres of the brain and we start to get information passing back and forth between them, now we're suddenly going to have access to answers and solutions we didn't have access to before. So Cognomovement is its own thing with the ball here. So the left side loves the bright colors and the shapes. The right side sees and feels that it's a 3D object. Even you guys seeing this on video, you see that this is 3D. So we start moving it back and forth in a crossbody. Crossbody is one of the ways that we learn. That's one of the reasons that we crawl as human beings. And then we're also adding in some other healing methodologies that are part of Cognomovement as well. NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. If any of you have ever heard of Tony Robbins, he is the king of NLP. NLP is how he gets people to walk across hot coals and not burn themselves. That is proof of the power of the mind when you are able to really push into those abilities there. EFT is emotional freedom technique. That's a lot of tapping. We don't really hear about it so much anymore, but it usually involves tapping different meridians in your face, your chin, your arm, your body to help move that energy out of the body. EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization reprogramming. That's another big piece of Cognomovement as well. So we do a lot of this cross body, moving the ball. And then the other piece of it is we do this infinity here. And this is the EMDR piece. And from people who have done both, I have never done traditional EMDR, so I can't speak to it. I was going to do it. Now I don't need to. But I've been told that this is like EMDR and crack. And I've heard this from both therapists who are EMDR therapists who are learning Cognomovement, as well as others who have actually done EMDR to help them heal with their past traumas for themselves. So what this is going to do is we're moving this ball. Since we're activating also all three ways we learn at the same time: auditory, we're actually talking during a session; kinesthetic, you feel the ball and we're focusing on where we feel it in the physical body; and visual, we're looking at the ball. So when we activate all three of these, it allows us to delete our old patterns and create new ones. And so when we talk about physical pain, that pattern, it's not necessarily a thought emotion pattern, although it might be. But what it's happening is that we've got 45 miles of nerves that go throughout our entire body. Might have a little road damage. You probably does too if you're here. But there's 45 miles of nerves. Your brain's constantly, hey, what's going on? What's going on? Checking in. The nerve's like, yeah, we got a hurt down here. Brain's like, yeah, you're right. We got a hurt. It hurts. That's that loop between the brain and the body. And the more times that that goes uninterrupted, brain's like, hey, we're checking in again. We still got that hurt down there. Yes, we do. And it feels a little worse today. Okay, noted, feels worse. So pain is actually all in our heads. And I do not mean that it is not real. It is real. What I mean is it is all processed in our brain. It's maybe the nerve in the leg that's giving the signal, but it's the brain that interprets that as pain, which means we can change the way that the brain interprets it. It's that simple. And it's been awesome. And this allows us to delete that old pattern and shift a perception. And I've been on calls with other people doing Cognomovement. There is another guy that I haven't worked with him directly, but he was on a call with me one day for a group thing that we were doing. And he used to struggle really bad with chronic pain. And he just said one day, he's like, what if it's just a sensation in my body? What if it's actually not pain? What if it's just something I can do and fix? And he's not in pain anymore. He was able to pull himself out of that. And part of that was, oh, it's just a sensation. It's not pain. And really like getting his body and his brain, his neurology to really embrace that idea. And so when I say pain is in the head, that's good news. It still means it's real. I'm not taking that away at all. But it also means that we can influence it. So neuroplasticity, this is something you guys can Google this as well. I'm giving you some of these terms you can do some of your own research if you would like to. But neuroplasticity is our ability to be able to positively change the way our brains work. It physically changes. So if chronic pain can physically change our brain to put us into a worsened state, that also means we can do something to pull out of that worsened state and we can change it in a different way. And when we shift these patterns and we get in the middle of that brain, that body brain loop with pain, if we can break that apart, we're going to completely change our perspective of physical pain. And it also taps back into our body's own natural ability to heal. So earlier I had mentioned that I have regained 3/4 of an inch. So when I first started skydiving, I was 5'7.5". And then when I was going in for my neuro consult, I was 5'5 1/3". After I started doing Cognomovement, 4 months after that, I was back to 5'6" again. And it's not because I'm slouching or I feel bad. I've been watching myself shrink for years. I'm standing up as tall as I possibly can every single time. And still I was 5'3", 5'5 1/3 for a little while. And I'm happy to be back at 5'6". I'll take that. And maybe I'm even taller again. I don't know. But it's been a massive shift that I've seen, and I've seen it in other people too, which is pretty awesome. All right. So you guys ready to do a demo I'm not going to have you turn on your cameras if you don't want to, but I am going to ask. I lost my pen here, so I'm going to use this silly fork that someone gave me. It actually says something on it. It's not a fork I eat with. But I want you to take something that you're going to be able to follow with your eyes. But if you're going into this and you're feeling your doubt, keep it. It's still going to work. I want to invite you to hold on to your doubt. I sat in my whole session, like I said, like a totally thinking they were full of shit, and it still worked. So it's okay. If you're finding that you have a lot of resistance to what I'm saying, great. That's what I want you to focus on in this session here. I want you to focus on that resistance where it is in the body and see what that's about. Explore it. We don't want to push anything away in Cognomovement. We want to feel it as big as it is. And remember, I was saying pain becomes part of who we are. It's okay if you're feeling different. It's okay if you feel weird or you feel different or you aren't really sure if you're ready to let go of it yet. That's all right. Just allow whatever is there to be. I'm not asking you to make a big shift tonight. Just try this with me. As you start to move things around, so it's going to look like this. And let me take off my glasses so you guys can really see my eyes. So we're going to be taking the pen or the fork or whatever you have. We're going to go way up until we really can't roll our eyes anymore. And then we're going to roll it as far over to the side as we can. You don't need to start doing this yet. Just watching what I'm doing. Going to try to look through our eyebrow. Then we're going to try to look through our ear. See, my head started turning again. I can still see the pen over there. I'm really stretching those eyes. See, they are about as far over as I can possibly make them. And then I'm going to try to look through my chin again. And then I'm going to cross my face. We're making an infinity symbol, the sideways figure 8. Now I'm going to try to look through my other eyebrow. And then, oh, I got something right there. So any place you feel a pull or pressure on your eye, I want you to stop. Can you, let me move this over closer so you can see. So you're just going to tick whatever you're moving back and forth a little bit like that. And just wait until you feel your eyes loosen up. So we're going to follow it all the way around, trying to look through our other ear, back through the other side of our chin. So we're going to do a few of these, and I'm just going to be saying some prompts as you do it. But before we start moving the pen, I want you guys to look down at your physical body. When we look down at it, that's when we really connect to those emotions. So keep your eyes open, look down at your physical body, take a nice deep breath. And if you already have physical pain or sensation, it can be a physical sensation, an emotion, or a craving. So if you already have a physical sensation you want to focus on, great, focus on that. If you're feeling a lot of resistance to what I'm talking about, focus on that. But look down at your body, connect to wherever you feel it. Okay, so funny story, I'm actually like making my shoulder a little sore from all the juicing. So I'm going to focus on my shoulder for this one as I'm doing this with you guys. So we want to give it a number on a scale of 1 to 10 because we want to be able to measure it. So 10 is unbelievable pain. 1 is, it's barely on the radar. I'd say mine's about a 2, maybe 3. It really doesn't hurt that bad. And then think about some other words. Does it have a shape? Does it have a color? Is it heavy or light? Is it dull or sharp? Make a note of those things either mentally or on a piece of paper for yourself. Dull or sharp, light or heavy, any color, any shape it may have, and a scale of 1 to 10. If there's any other words that come to mind that help you think about this physical state, tap into it now. And now wherever that is in your body, so for me, I'm focusing on my shoulder, I want you to stay in it. So even if this sensation starts to lighten or it starts to move, you're just going to be following it. All right. So go ahead and bring your object up. We're going to kind of start in the middle of our faces here. Focus on that feeling and stay in it. Feeling it. Feeling it. Let those eyes go really big, really stretch them. Go slow with the pen or whatever you're holding. Nice deep breaths as you're doing it. What else do you know about this sensation you're feeling in your body? What do you know about it? What do you know? Is there potentially a lesson for you in this sensation that you're feeling? Is there a lesson? And if so, what would that lesson be? How do you feel about this physical sensation? Is it frustrating? Is it aggravating? Is it annoying? Is it infuriating? Maybe part of you enjoys it. Maybe we're focused on a positive thing. We can do that too. What is it giving you? What is it giving you? Or what kind of message does it have for you? In any place you feel your eyes pulling, trying to keep your head as straight and forward as you can, chin neutral. We got a little something there working out. Still focusing on that feeling in your body. I'm going to do a couple more rounds of this. Go up overhead. Whatever pace you want to, the slower the better. What this is doing is we have place cells that are in our brains that are scattered like buckshot. And these place cells contain memories. So as we're moving our eyes around, we're accessing different parts of our brain where memories are stored to help us connect what else we know about this pattern. So if you're seeing things that don't make sense to you, awesome. It's connected somehow. What else do you know? Is there a message? Perhaps it's a lesson. Maybe your body is trying to teach you a lesson. If so, what would that lesson be? What would that lesson be? Is there another perspective you could take with this physical sensation? If so, what's the perspective? How does that perspective feel versus how you felt about it earlier? How does this impact you now? What is a perspective that makes this easier for you? Okay, go ahead and put your object down. And if you're able to get up, if you aren't, don't worry about it. If you are not able to get up and stand, what I want you to do, I'm going to lay back here so you can see. I want you to just cross your hand on your knees like this. If you're not, you don't have to lift your leg up if you're in too much pain. Just do this, just a little cross body, and I want you to look up as you're doing that. Just take deep breaths. If you are able to get up, then I would like you to get up. Oops, I got a little anti-gravity mat here in the way. I would like you to get up and walk in 3 figure eights. When we shift our location, we can shift our perspective. Still focusing, even if you're doing the knees sitting down, keep focusing on that feeling in your physical body. Just walk in a few figure eights. What's another perspective? How do I feel? Whatever piece is really resonating with you, just keep holding on to that. Let your eyes kind of look around your room. I'm gonna do one more. All right, I'm gonna come back And then now we're going to do a couple of yawns to help release whatever energy we just started to move. So turn your head to the side, big yawn. Oh. Turn your head to the other side, same thing, big yawn. Oh. I always think I'm not going to get a second yawn out, but yet I always do. And a real one too. They can be fake. So, all right. Give me a thumbs up if you feel, check back in with your body again. Give me a thumbs up if there's any change. It may have gotten bigger. It may have gotten smaller. Or let me know if there is no change. But thumbs up if you got a change, or put in the chat if you didn't. Just see what that little tiny demo did for you guys. I'm not expecting a massive shift, but a little bit of change is good. Not sure if you guys are still there. Let's see, got the chat. Not much change. Did you experience any kind of change at all though, Jason? If it went up, it's great. If it went down, it's great. That was like one tiny little fraction of a Cognomovement session. Oh, you had to run to the bathroom in between. Oh, that's funny. Gosh, you know what? That's a great time. Thank you for that reminder. I'm actually going to do a quick break here, and then we're going to go back to this again. And I want to show you a little bit more about what a session would look like here. So stay tuned. And Jason, actually, what I'm going to go take a bio break. If you want to just reconnect to it again and then focus on that and just start moving whatever object you were, just go back to doing that super quick. And I will be right back with you guys here in a moment. Let me just turn this off. Whoops. And all right, I'm back again. Let me, oh, come on. Oops. Didn't mean to do that. Trying to turn my video back on again. I'm having technical issues. Let me try this again over here. Well, yeah, if it's hard on the eyes, Tara, that's good, because that stress you feel, how in the world can I not? Oh, there it is. I think the Mondays just got me. All right, I'm back. The eye stretch and the soreness in the eyes, that's good. That means that we're on to that pattern. So what it may be is that we may want to just not stretch the eyes so much, or go even slower in that. So to continue, so what a Cognomovement session would look like. So that piece was just the eye movements. Jason, I don't know if you've had a moment while I was gone. I wasn't gone too long, to try to focus again, moving your object wherever I put my fork. You know, you're going to be, let me move this up again. You hear, and you're really pushing those eyes focusing on that. You know, what else do I know about this? Is there another perspective? Is there a lesson for me? How do I feel about this? So the infinity we usually do after we do what we call the crossbody. So we start down here at the lowest area. So we have energy centers or chakras that go out throughout our whole body. So some people refer to them as energy centers. The metaphysical crowd refers to them more as chakras. We've actually been able to detect these with science, and each one controls various parts of our body and is attached to certain pieces of our being as well. So as we move those up, we start to shift that energy. And this crossbody movement here, as we're doing this, so we're saying one of the colors in the ball as we start. We're down here, purple, yellow, we're focused on that. And we start bringing the ball up the body with whatever prompts the practitioner is giving. I'm just kind of letting it go up right now. We keep shifting and our head can move on this part. And we're just starting to allow that energy to move and shift through the body. And so as we do this as well, our eyes are down. When our eyes are down, we're connected to the physical. When we start to get here we start to get access into memories. And we're also in our logical mind right there as well. So that starts to come into play when we get about here with the ball. And then when we go up overhead, this is where ideas and inspirations are when we start to look up. So we start moving that energy from low to high. And then as we go into that infinity piece with the ball, it's much easier for me to follow the ball than the fork, just because I'm used to the ball. And plus it's a bigger object. That really starts to have that impact. So Jason, were you able to focus on that sensation again and see if you felt any difference? Good. Okay. Yeah. I'm just hoping for you guys to feel a little like we can have a significant change just doing the eye movements, but not normally in 5-10 minute demo. It usually takes a little bit longer, but that's just one piece there. So as we start to shift that, and then we're adding in some of those other components as well. So there's pieces that we can do working with meridians in the body. There's even a quantum set that's going into a whole other realm though. But there's a lot of different places that we can work. And meridian's one of my favorite to work with because we can actually do something with the teeth and we can find other people that may be attached to this pattern for us. And it's what's really cool about this, and we're going to go a little bit more into this. It's amazing what other parts of your life that pattern is actually touching. And the only way that I found these links so far has been through Cognomovement and the changes this ball has made in my life. I'm so grateful to that friend that's like, why don't you try this? I'm like, wacky ball neurosurgery. Let's try the wacky ball. It just seemed a lot less expensive to me in every way, shape, and form, not just my copays, but no one was going to have to cut me open for me to use this. And neurosurgery, the one I was looking at, it has a 50-50 outcome. The last 2 surgeries I had to have had higher than a 90% chance of a successful outcome, and I had a major complication with both. So I didn't want to go into a surgery that I just had a 50-50 on. So I had a lot banking on this. And it worked for me. And it's worked for so many other people as well. It's awesome. All right. So moving right along, my beta class. It is Become Unstoppable Part 1. Now, in full transparency, I would love to just launch right into a 6-month program, but this is a new modality. Some of you guys have just heard about this tonight for the first time, or you've heard very little about it. I just want you to get a sample of what's possible. So this is the Part 1. So who is this class for? All the reasons at the beginning of class that why you're here. So if any or more than one of those apply to you, you're in the right place already. And if you're also sick and tired of hurting, you like to have fun, because I love to have fun in my sessions. I've made it a goal to make each one of my clients laugh in every session. And so far I'm batting 1,000 on that. I've gotten a chuckle in each one at a very minimum. If you're ready to make changes to improve your current state and you have an idea, even if you're not sure, but you have an idea of who you want to be when you stop hurting, then this class is for you. Now, I haven't set a date to start it yet, just the week, because for two reasons. One, I'm going to keep this class really small. I'm going to limit it to only 5 people because I want to make sure that I'm giving everybody the amount of attention and energy that each one of you deserves. And I want to make sure I'm not overburdening myself by overcrowding the class. So there's only going to be 5 people that are going to be allowed for this first round of Become Unstoppable Part 1. And when I offer this again down the road, it's not going to be offered for the price that I'm about to show you guys in a few moments. But the 6-week, it's enough to be able to influence pain, enough for you to decide whether this is something that's going to work for you or not. So what do you get in this class? So the outline, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to have a one-on-one call with me. This is included as part of the class. We're going to assess where you are now in the pain journey. We're going to identify what your heaviest patterns are. If you haven't downloaded my workbook on those 4 areas, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the chat before we wrap tonight. But I want you to keep journaling on that. If you haven't started yet, then please start to journal on what you're finding for yourselves as you correlate any patterns, verbal, emotional, mental, and physical, with your pain levels. This has been something that has been massively impactful for that client that I've told you I've been working with for a while. And I keep going back to him because he has such a severe condition. It's something called arachnoiditis, which means that your spinal membrane is swollen. And he gave me a lot more details that I didn't ask his permission to share. So I can only leave it there. But that's one of those that it's uncurable. He started to journal and he's realized he's actually having fewer high pain days than he realized. He realized that his fiance and him are actually doing amazingly well, way better than he thought he was. When he's like looking at everything that's happening in a day, he really, as soon as he started to journal, started to feel better. It's so powerful to start to correlate that, because then you can say, okay, if these things make me feel better and these things make me worse, we may not be able to completely avoid what makes us feel worse, but we can counter it with what makes us feel better, which is part of what I did last week when I took my own back out. I had a bath. I had a Cognomovement session. I felt better by the time I went to bed. It was amazing how quickly everything turned around. And then when we get into the class, as it starts, we're going to be deleting these patterns that we find with weekly Cognomovement sessions. So the form of the class is going to be about 20 to 30 minutes of discussion, because what I found is as we have these discussions, it starts to get the creative juices going and starts to open your mind to more possibilities, which makes the Cognomovement session much more effective for more permanent change. So you're going to start to learn some of these healing secrets within you. It's amazing what our bodies have to say to us when we have a way to tap into it, which is what Cognomovement does. And it starts to tell you what it actually wants. You don't normally hear this stuff in traditional medicine. Like, you may get some of it in a meditative retreat. You may get some of it at a Joe Dispenza, but they're not going to teach you something that's going to keep moving over time. It can vary from there. You're going to tap into your innate healing potential, that your body's ability to move. As we dive into these heaviest patterns and delete them, we're going to shift what our bodies are capable of doing, just simply because that heavy pattern is not there anymore. We're going to keep removing those limiting beliefs that are keeping us stuck. And this is way easier to do than you realize. And as you come out of pain, you're still going to have some limiting beliefs, and we can still keep addressing them and cutting through them, even as they continue to morph. It helps you figure out who your true identity is, who you really are when you're not in pain. And you're going to start to gain the skills to be able to monitor this and maintain that pain-free, vibrant wellness that everybody wants. And so part of that is in the package that you guys are going to be getting. Because as much as I want to work with people all the time and I want to help as many people as I can, I'm not looking for people to work with me for the rest of their lives. I want to help you guys get to a place where you are unstoppable, and then you can continue that on your own. I want to hear from you guys in a couple of months or years or both. And I want to hear that you're taking that trip that you didn't think you could take anymore, or you did that thing that you didn't think you could do, or you finally got to like pick down and scoop up your kid or your grandkid and toss them over your head again, like you haven't been able to do in a long time. I want to hear that from my clients, that you are living the hell out of your lives because I taught you something that allowed you to get your life back. That is my goal in all of this, is to hear how awesome my clients are doing after they worked with me. It may take us a little bit to get there, but we're going to get you there. You are going to experience a permanent change in your perception of pain. I can't guarantee you're going to be zero pain in 6 weeks, but I can guarantee you will have a change and it can be permanent. Then we're going to review where you are versus where you started. And then we're going to discuss what's next after that. So what you get as part of this, as I mentioned, you get the one-on-one coaching call with me. You also have weekly group coaching via the private Facebook group, which is already set up. It's called Become Unstoppable. I call it the Unstoppable Ones, I think is the link. And that's going to include a 90 to 120 minute class plus Cognomovement session every week. We're actually going to have 2 experts to join us. I'm so excited. We have someone who is a dietary expert, and she's going to tell us about anti-inflammatory diets and foods that we can integrate into our diets if we don't want to make a shift or we're not ready to let go of our favorite stuff, even though we know it's not good for us. Okay, at least know what's helping you and what's maybe adding to the issue a little bit more. And then the other guest, he has a degree in exercise science. So he's going to talk about why movement is so important. You know, Sir Isaac Newton said, a body in motion stays in motion. A body at rest stays at rest. This applies even when we're in pain. So how can we get ourselves to get in motion if we haven't been able to yet? You're also going to develop a benefit from the community, support, encouragement, accountability, and mastermind. I have put so much into this class. It has been years of work that you are seeing here right now, testing it out in a variety of ways, not just myself, but with other people. You're also going to get a comprehensive welcome package and toolkit. So you're going to get 2 Cognomovement balls. So you'll get one like this, as well as a beach ball. You're going to get the Cognomovement basic training videos, which are 3 videos that you have access to for life. One goes over a physical sensation, one goes over a craving, and one goes over an emotion. You can use those over and over again. That's part of how I come out of the picture later, and you can still sustain this on your own. You have those to go back to at any time. I'm also going to send each of you a copy of this book, Louise Hay, Heal Your Body. I don't know if you guys have heard of this or not. I love this book. And as much as I wish she was wrong, she's not. Like if I go look at, let's see, the spinal stuff in here. So I told you I had 6 bulging discs in my lumbar spine, and I know which ones they are. So when I go through here and look at it, so L1, crying for love and a need to be lonely. It's insecurity. Yep, that used to pertain to me. Stuck in childhood pain. Oof. You remember that trauma I said I endured as a kid? Yeah, that was the root of a lot of it. Also abuse, guilt, self-hatred. That's L3. Yeah, that used to apply to me. L4 is financial insecurity. Oof, I was so afraid of that. Fear of career. Oh yeah, I was afraid to stay in one and then afraid to move into another one. And level 5 is anger. L5 is anger. I was definitely pretty angry. All of those applied to me in every condition that I've looked up so far. This is the emotional attachment that is going on that I had referenced earlier that goes to the physical. And this has just been a fantastic guidebook. So when we aren't sure what the roots can be, this is a great resource to go back to. And it also becomes kind of comical to talk about at times too. There's also going to be some other pieces in there as well. You're going to get both a physical journal and an online journal. The online journal, the physical journal is for you to pour your heart out into. No one is ever going to see it except you. The online journal can be a more edited version of that, but I need to see where people start and where they end. You're also going to be getting weekly online meditations in the Facebook group that are specific to have around pain spikes, restless nights, times of higher stress. So each week you're going to have a new meditation in there as well. You're also, because you're getting the Cognomovement basic training, I don't set that price point on the Cognomovement basic training. It's $299. And you get the balls with it. I'm paying for that for you guys as part of this. And you get to have access to the Cognomovement community, which is about 200 people strong already. And these are people who are using Cognomovement in many different ways. That group is very alive and active. And what's also cool about that, so Bill McKenna, the founder, and Liz Larson, his partner and training partner as well, they're also my mentors. They give away a freebie every month in that group. So they offer a free class every month. So you get to be a part of those as well. And you can add and integrate other pieces of Cognomovement that you may want to do. And the best part, you're going to go from feeling hopeful that you can change your pain to confident because you're going to have proof that you can. So what you really get, go back to that thing you wrote at the beginning of class. How would it change your life if you were able to consider doing that again? How much money would you pay to be able to do that again? $1,000, $2,000, $10,000? What is that thing you had to give up? What if you were able to do your kids or your grandkids' favorite thing again, or both? What if you were able to be with them in ways you haven't been able to be with them again? What would that be worth to you? How could that change your life? What if you could slow the frequency of doctor's visits and treatments? Like if you look back, how often are you going to the doctor? And how much money are you having to pour into that medical system right now with lackluster results? What would it be worth to you financially and mentally, physically? And what would you do with that time you get back? Would you meditate more? Would you be able to potentially start to get to a place where you work out? Would you do more Cognomovement? Would you laugh more? Would you have more rest? Would you be able to start to ride your bike again? What would be possible if you didn't have to go to the doctor all the time? And I've had, just so you know, oh gosh, I think 15 MRIs now. So yeah, it's a time hog. I'm so glad that I'm not there anymore. My doctor barely even recognizes me and I love it. She doesn't know who I am. Yay, good. I don't want my doctor to know who I am. That means I'm in there too much. What if you could steadily feel less and less pain? What would that be like? Because I know that that's what's going to happen to anybody who enrolls. It's what I've experienced myself. My back pain's been under control from my second Cognomovement session. I mean, that first one, it blew it away, but it wasn't permanent. Once I got the ball, I've been unstoppable since then. And what if this program impacted virtually every single area of your life in positive ways? Because that's what it's done for me. I've been able to utilize Cognomovement to retire from corporate after 24 years and be able to focus full time on what I'm doing with you guys right now, helping people shift their perception and their perspective of pain to get back to living, loving, laughing fully again. My interpersonal relationships are better. I've actually even used it. The reason that I started with PRP injections for my knee, that was what my body told me I wanted to do. So I didn't have to have my second knee replaced, and it's working. I got that message like a year ago in a Cognomovement session. I've been working towards it. I did everything else in there and it has been making steady progress since then. So it's not just my physical body. I started to use it with my mom. My mom had a big cognitive decline last year. I've started to use Cognomovement with her. She's impressing her physical therapist now. There's so many ways that this touches. Gosh, what else? It's helped with manifestation. It's helped my interpersonal relationships and how close I've been able to be with people. That's probably just as big a gift as the lack of physical pain that I no longer experience. But this ball has the power to absolutely transform your life. It is just a matter of how deep you want to go. So we can start with physical pain. The sky is endless as far as where you can go with this. So you think about all that. My guess is that it's probably worth a heck of a lot more than you even realize. Like just the amount of time and effort it takes just getting to the doctor alone. That alone right there. If you can lower that, what would that be to you? So this is my offer here. So when we put everything together, there is a lot of value that comes in here. But because you guys joined me tonight, there is an early bird special that I'm offering to anybody who joined this class. It is only $8.99 if you sign up before February 5th. Please use the code early bird. Doesn't matter if it's in all caps or lowercase. Also remember that registration is going to be limited to 5. Once I have 5 people, I'm closing the waiting list, and I'm closing the list. Going to have to be on a wait list for the next time that I run this. I don't know when that's going to be, but I will do it again in the future. Registration is going to close on midnight, February 10th. If I don't have 5 people signed up by then, you can sign up same place you did for this masterclass, katiewrigley.com/thepainchanger. There's also more information on the Pain Changer program further down that page below the masterclass. And the big thing, and I want you guys to keep this in mind, if you do the work with me and literally nothing changes in your pain state or your life, I'm going to give you your money back. You can keep the ball. You can keep the videos. You can stay in the Cognomovement community, but I will give you back your money. No questions asked. We'll review where you started, reviewed where you ended. And if you are on the same page, I'm going to honor my word. I'll put it in writing. You're going to get your money back. So what do you have to lose? You know, if you're in a place like me, even starting to consider surgery, or you were just so sick and tired of pain being your default, what have you got to lose? With a money back guarantee and a wacky ball. Thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. You can reach out if you have any questions, Katie@katiewrigley.com. You can find me on social media. I'm at Coach KT Dubs on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. Do you guys have any questions? Let's see. Thank you, Jason. All right, let me go ahead and stop sharing and just open it up if anybody has any questions here. And I'm waiting for something in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and grab those files for you. So the other thing that I wanted to include in here. So here's my workbook. This has the journaling exercises in it. And then this one here. So I'm going to include some brain scans that were taken before and after a Cognomovement session. So this person actually had epilepsy, and they reported that afterwards they felt like they were in their pre-epileptic state. Now I can't say I cure anything. FDA doesn't let me do that, but she has still continued to report, even months down the line, that she is still not having seizures. The tremor that she had is gone. So this is her before and after. And so the brain scan there, when we start to get into high levels of pain, or they are sustained over and over again, our subconscious starts to get hyperreactive, the way that you'll see in those scans there. So you'll see the before and the after. And it was an 1.5-hour session. And it has forever changed this woman's life. So there's a lot of the science behind that. Because that's one of the things I've heard a lot is like, oh yeah, but science, like it's actually backed by science. And actually the third party company that ran those brain scans for us, they rated us in the top 90th percentile as far as effectiveness of programs that make that much of an impact on the subconscious mind. So there you have it. Thank you guys so much for your time tonight. Again, my name is Katie Wrigley, and I really hope I'm going to be hearing from you guys soon. Take care.